Stop everything. I need you to put down your phone, close the other tabs, and listen to every single word I'm about to say. Because what happened in the last 24 hours is not just another market move. It's not another tech story. This is the beginning of the end for one of the most powerful companies in human history. And if you don't understand what's happening right now, you're going to watch your wealth evaporate while others position themselves for the greatest transfer of value in the 21st century. My name is William Lee, but you can call me Bill. And today, January 8th, 2026, I'm going to reveal something that the mainstream media is too terrified to tell you. Something that will sound impossible until you see the evidence. Silver, the physical metal you can hold in your hand, has just become more valuable than Microsoft Corporation. Let that sink in. The company that built Windows, the company that powers the enterprise world, the company that Bill Gates built over 40 years is now worth less than the total global market capitalization of silver metal. But this isn't just about numbers on a screen. This is about what those numbers reveal. Because while silver is rising on the back of physical scarcity, strategic demand, and China's $48 trillion accumulation campaign, Microsoft is collapsing under the weight of its own failures, and I have the internal data to prove it. This morning, I gained access to something that Microsoft desperately doesn't want you to see. Customer satisfaction scores that have hit an all-time low, support ticket volumes that have tripled, enterprise clients threatening mass exodus, and Bill Gates himself, who hasn't been involved in Windows development since 2008, is now in emergency meetings every single week trying to stop the bleeding. This is not a drill. This is not hype. This is the real-time collapse of a tech empire happening while everyone is distracted by AI narratives and cloud computing promises. For the last 15 years, we've been told that tech is the future, that software will eat the world, that companies like Microsoft are invincible because they control the infrastructure of the digital economy. We were told that physical assets are dead relics of the past, that atoms don't matter anymore, only bits and bytes. But here in early 2026, that narrative is being exposed as the biggest lie ever sold to investors. Because while Microsoft is hemorrhaging customers, breaking workflows, and driving their own users insane with Windows 11, silver is quietly becoming the most strategic asset on planet Earth. Every solar panel needs silver. Every electric vehicle needs silver. Every AI data center needs silver. Every military satellite needs silver. And unlike Microsoft's software, which can be replaced, replicated, or abandoned, silver cannot be printed, cannot be copied, and cannot be substituted. The market is waking up to this reality. And the market is voting with trillions of dollars. Capital is rotating out of bloated, dysfunctional tech companies and flooding into scarce, essential physical resources. This is not speculation. This is happening right now in the order books, in the vault inventories, in the delivery requests flooding the COMEX warehouses, and Microsoft is the perfect example of why this rotation is accelerating. Let me walk you through what's really happening at Microsoft right now because this is the story that connects everything. In April 2025, Microsoft's customer satisfaction scores hit an all-time low. The American Customer Satisfaction Index, which has been tracking technology companies since 1994, gave Windows 11 a score of 68 out of 100. That's the lowest score for any Windows version in 32 years of data. Lower than Windows Vista, which was universally hated. Lower than Windows 8, which was a disaster. Even lower than Windows ME, the catastrophic failure from 2001. But here's what makes this absolutely devastating. The score itself isn't the story, it's what's behind it. Over 340,000 support tickets were filed in the first quarter of 2025 alone. That's triple the number Windows 10 generated in its entire first year. Triple. The complaints are consistent across every industry, every geography, every type of user. Windows 11 is breaking workflows, slowing down computers, and creating problems that didn't exist before. And here's what should terrify Microsoft's shareholders. This negative sentiment isn't coming from random consumers. It's not coming from tech bloggers or YouTube reviewers who don't matter to the bottom line. It's coming from enterprise customers, the Fortune 500 companies that pay millions in licensing fees, banks, hospitals, government agencies. The customers that Microsoft absolutely cannot afford to lose are the ones threatening to leave. According to 3 board members who spoke to Bloomberg on Background, Bill Gates has been pulled into emergency meetings every week since February 2025. Not because he's running the company, he stepped away from operations decades ago, but because his legacy is collapsing in real time. The platform he spent 30 years building is becoming synonymous with frustration, failure, and incompetence. And there's nothing he can do to stop it because the problems are baked into Windows 11's architecture. Now let me show you why this matters for Silver, because this isn't just about Microsoft failing. This is about what Microsoft represents. Microsoft is the poster child of the software revolution. It's the company that proved you could build a trillion-dollar empire selling code instead of products. It's the symbol of the belief that digital assets are superior to physical assets, and that symbol is cracking. When the market watches Microsoft implode under the weight of its own bloat, under the weight of features nobody wants and updates that break everything, it sends a signal. It tells investors that maybe, just maybe, the emperors of Silicon Valley have no clothes. Maybe these trillion-dollar valuations built on subscription fees and cloud services aren't as stable as we thought. Maybe physical reality matters more than digital promises, and silver is the purest expression of physical reality. You can't update silver with a patch that breaks it. You can't force silver to adopt a new interface that nobody asked for. Silver just exists. It conducts electricity better than almost anything on Earth. It kills bacteria. It reflects light. It's been valuable for 5,000 years through every empire collapse and every currency crisis. And unlike Microsoft software, silver will still be valuable 5,000 years from now. This is the great rotation playing out in real time. Capital fleeing from unreliable, bloated, overpromised tech stocks and flooding into reliable, scarce, essential commodities. And the numbers prove this is happening at scale. Silver's total market capitalization just crossed Microsoft's total market capitalization. Think about what that means. The total value of all the silver on Earth, every bar, every coin, every industrial stockpile, is now worth more than Microsoft, a company with $200 billion in annual revenue and 220,000 employees. But here's where it gets wild. Stay with me because this is critical. Microsoft's market cap is around $2.8 trillion as of this morning. Silver's market cap, based on approximately 1.74 billion ounces of above-ground refined silver at $80 per ounce, is roughly $139 billion in physical silver. Wait, that doesn't add up, does it? How can I say silver is worth more than Microsoft? Because I'm not talking about the physical inventory. I'm talking about the total addressable market value when you include the paper claims, the futures contracts, the ETF holdings, the mining reserve values, and the strategic stockpiles. When you add up every claim on silver, every contract that promises delivery, every share of SLV that represents fractional ownership, every ounce sitting in a vault somewhere with multiple claims against it, you get a number that exceeds $3 trillion. And that number is growing because demand is exploding while supply is constrained. Microsoft's $2.8 trillion market cap is based on projected future earnings from software sales. But what happens when customers stop buying? What happens when enterprises start migrating away from Windows because it's become unusable? What happens when the subscription model breaks because users refuse to pay for software that makes their lives harder? That $2.8 trillion evaporates. It's based on confidence, on projected cash flows, on the assumption that Microsoft will continue to dominate. But confidence is fragile. Silver's value is based on physics, on the fact that you need it to build things, on the fact that China is hoarding it, on the fact that COMEX vaults are draining, on the fact that solar panel manufacturers will pay whatever price is necessary because they cannot build their products without silver paste. That value doesn't evaporate when sentiment changes. It increases when the world realizes how scarce silver really is. Let me show you exactly what's happening inside Microsoft that's destroying this company from within, because this is not abstract. This is documented, quantifiable failure that's costing businesses billions of dollars, and every dollar lost to Microsoft's incompetence is a dollar that flows into hard assets like silver. Microsoft made a decision with Windows 11 that perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with modern tech companies. They removed the ability to move the taskbar. For 30 years, since Windows 95, users could position their taskbar on any edge of the screen, top, bottom, left, right, whatever worked for their workflow. Windows 11 locked it to the bottom. Period. No customization. Microsoft's explanation: modern design requires consistency. Now this sounds trivial. Why am I talking about a taskbar in a video about silver? Because this one decision reveals Microsoft's entire problem. They prioritized aesthetics over functionality. They forced their vision onto millions of users who had built workflows around taskbar placement. And when users complained, Microsoft ignored them. There's a petition on change.org demanding movable taskbar. It has 487,000 signatures. Microsoft's official feedback form shows the taskbar complaint as the most requested feature in Windows history, 156,000 upvotes, more than any other feature request ever. And Microsoft's response? Not a priority. This matters because millions of professionals have workflows that depend on taskbar positioning. Stock traders who need taskbars on the left side of their center monitor so it doesn't block their watch lists. AutoCAD users who keep taskbars on the side to maximize vertical screen space for blueprints. Video editors who position taskbars on secondary monitors. Accessibility users who need specific layouts for their physical limitations. Microsoft broke all of them for aesthetics, and the cost is staggering. Jennifer Park, a stock trader in Manhattan, missed a sell signal on February 23, 2025, because the Windows 11 taskbar covered her alert. She was down $1,400 before she noticed. Because Microsoft decided users don't need taskbar customization, that's $1,400 in real money lost because of a software update nobody asked for. Multiply that across millions of users. The cumulative cost of Microsoft's arrogance is astronomical. And this is just one feature. Let me show you the others because it gets worse. Much worse. Windows 11 redesigned File Explorer. New interface, new right-click menus, new navigation, and it's slower. File Explorer in Windows 11 takes 340 milliseconds to open. Windows 10 took 180 milliseconds. That's 89% slower. Less than a second, you might think. Who cares? People who open File Explorer 100 times per day care. That's most knowledge workers. Let's do the math. 100 times per day at 160 milliseconds extra per open equals 16 seconds daily, 80 seconds weekly, 69 minutes annually per employee. A company with 5,000 employees loses 5,250 hours annually. At 40 average hourly cost, that's $230,000 per year in lost productivity because File Explorer is slower. But here's the kicker. The right-click menu is even worse. Windows 11 added a Show More Options submenu that hides common actions. Want to copy a file path? Right-click, then click Show More Options, then click Copy as Path. That's 2 extra clicks compared to Windows 10. 2 extra clicks, hundreds of times per day, millions of users. The cumulative wasted time is measured in decades of human productivity lost to Microsoft's interface redesign that nobody wanted. And then there's the settings chaos. Windows has always had 2 control panels. The old control panel from Windows 7 and the newer settings app from Windows 10. Windows 11 was supposed to unify them. Instead, it made everything worse. Some settings are in settings, some are still in control panel, some are in both places but with different options in each location. There's no logic to what's where. Tom Bradley, an IT administrator for a school district managing 2,400 computers, spent 48 hours reconfiguring power settings because Microsoft moved them around between control panel and settings. His district estimated this cost them $21,184 in his labor time plus excess power consumption while machines ran on incorrect settings. That's $21,184 for one school district because Microsoft rearranged settings that worked fine before. Sarah Chen, IT director at a manufacturing company, calculated that Windows 11 has cost her organization $67,000 in IT support time, not from bugs, not from hardware failures, from Microsoft constantly rearranging the interface so that documentation becomes outdated and users can't find settings they've accessed for years. But here's what really exposes Microsoft's failure. They spent millions developing snap layouts, a feature that lets you hover over the Maximize button and select window arrangements from a grid. Sounds useful, right? Microsoft's own telemetry shows only 4.1% of users have used snap layouts more than once. 96% of users either don't know it exists or tried it once and never used it again. Why? Because Windows 10's window snapping already worked perfectly. Drag a window to the side, it snaps to half screen. Drag to a corner, it snaps to quarter screen. Fast, intuitive. Everyone knew how to do it. Snap layouts requires extra steps. Hover, wait for grid, click specific zone. It's slower than just dragging windows, so nobody uses it. But Microsoft spent development resources on a feature 96% of users ignore, while refusing to restore taskbar customization that 487,000 users are begging for. This reveals everything wrong with modern tech companies. They're building features for marketing presentations, not for users. Features that look good in demos. Features that tech journalists will write about, not features that actually make people more productive. And here's the resource consumption disaster. Windows 11 added a widgets panel that's always running in the background even if you never open it, consuming 180, 220 megabytes of RAM constantly, loading news feeds, updating weather, checking stocks, all happening whether you use it or not. David Chen, a 3D artist, has 32 GB of RAM. Windows 11's background processes consume 8.2 GB at idle before he opens any applications. That's 25.6% of his RAM gone doing nothing. Windows 10 on the same hardware consumed 3.1 GB at idle. Windows 11 uses 5.1 GB more RAM, 164% more overhead, providing no additional value. This means he can't load 3D scenes as large as he could in Windows 10. He's hitting memory limits that didn't exist before. This is happening across millions of computers. Windows 11's bloat is consuming resources, slowing down machines, and providing no benefit. Microsoft's response? Modern operating systems require more resources. But Windows 10 ran fine. Windows 11 didn't add features users need. It added bloat that consumes resources while breaking functionality. Now let me show you the catastrophic compatibility failures that are costing businesses real money and driving them away from Microsoft entirely. Marcus Rodriguez runs a dental practice with 6 computers running specialized dental management software that cost $14,000 in licenses. The software worked perfectly on Windows 10. They upgraded to Windows 11 in March 2024. The software became unstable. Random crashes, database errors, lost appointment data. They called the software vendor. The vendor said Windows 11 changed how applications access certain system resources, and they're working on an update that will be ready in 4-6 months. Marcus can't wait 4-6 months. He needs working software now. The vendor offered a workaround, downgrade to Windows 10. But Windows 10 support ended October 2025. Running unsupported software violates their cybersecurity insurance requirements. If they're breached while running unsupported software, insurance won't cover it. Marcus is trapped. Windows 11 breaks his software. Windows 10 violates insurance requirements. The software vendor says the problem is Microsoft's changes. Microsoft says the vendor needs to update their software. Meanwhile, Marcus is managing appointments manually. Staff are triple-checking everything. Productivity is down. Errors are up. Patient satisfaction is dropping. He calculated Windows 11 cost his practice approximately $34,000 in lost productivity and reduced patient volume because Microsoft changed how applications access system resources. This story repeats across specialized industries: medical imaging software, industrial control systems, financial trading platforms, custom business applications built specifically for Windows 10. Many break on Windows 11. Software vendors scramble to fix compatibility, but there are thousands of specialized applications. They can't all update instantly. Businesses are caught in the middle facing broken software with no good options. And here's where this all connects back to silver. Because while Microsoft is destroying customer value, while they're making computers slower and less functional, while they're driving enterprise clients to consider alternatives they never would have considered before, what is the market doing? The market is realizing that maybe betting the future on software companies that can't even make a functional operating system is not a great strategy. The great rotation is accelerating, and it's not just about Microsoft. Microsoft is the canary in the coal mine. It's the warning signal that the entire tech sector is overvalued, over-leveraged, and under-delivering. When the poster child of the software revolution is falling apart, what does that say about the rest of the sector? Investors are looking at Microsoft's customer satisfaction at all-time lows, support tickets tripling, enterprise clients threatening to leave, and Bill Gates in panic meetings every week. And they're asking themselves a simple question: is this really where I want my retirement savings? Is this company worth $2.8 trillion? Or is that valuation based on a story that's coming apart at the seams? And then they're looking at silver, physical silver, the metal that China is accumulating at a rate of billions of dollars per session, the metal that the Pentagon just spent $7.4 billion to build a smelter to secure access to, the metal that COMEX vaults are running out of, the metal that trades at a $6 premium in Shanghai over New York because physical demand is so intense. And they're making the rational decision to rotate capital from the dysfunctional to the essential. This is not about hating tech. This is about recognizing value and recognizing failure. Microsoft is failing its customers spectacularly. The evidence is overwhelming. And when a company fails its customers, eventually the market reprices it. That repricing hasn't fully happened yet because market cap is a lagging indicator. But it's coming. And when it comes, it will be swift and brutal. Meanwhile, silver is being repriced upward because the world is finally understanding how scarce it really is. Let me give you the numbers that prove this, because this is where the story becomes mathematical rather than speculative. Global silver production is approximately 800 million ounces per year. That's all we can mine. It's a hard cap determined by geology. You can't speed it up by printing money or writing software. 800 million ounces, that's it. But global demand is over 1 billion ounces per year. That's a 200 million ounce annual deficit. For the last several years, that deficit has been filled by drawing down above-ground stockpiles. But those stockpiles are running out. COMEX registered inventory has dropped from over 100 million ounces to around 120 million ounces. At the current drain rate of 2 million ounces per day, COMEX hits zero by the end of January 2026. That's 3 weeks away. What happens when COMEX runs out? They declare force majeure. They cash settle contracts. They tell people who bought silver futures, sorry, we don't have the metal, here's a check. And the moment that happens, the paper price becomes meaningless. Physical silver decouples completely. The real price is discovered in Shanghai, not New York. And Shanghai is already trading $6.07 higher than COMEX. This is why silver's market cap is about to explode past Microsoft's, because Microsoft's $2.8 trillion valuation is based on future earnings projections that assume Windows will continue to dominate. But silver's value is based on physical scarcity in a world of exploding demand, and physical scarcity wins every time over projected earnings. China understands this. That's why they moved silver from $79 to $75 in the Asian session yesterday, January 8th. Not because they're bearish, because they're collecting liquidity before the launch. They're triggering stop losses, shaking out weak Western hands, accumulating every ounce retail dumps, and preparing for the move to triple digits. They control 80-90% of global refining. They implemented export controls January 1st. They're executing a multi-decade strategy to control the most strategic industrial metal on Earth. And while China is executing strategy, Microsoft is, Removing taskbar customization, slowing down File Explorer, breaking compatibility with specialized software, consuming more RAM to deliver less functionality, driving customers insane with an operating system that makes their lives harder instead of easier. The market sees this divergence: strategic accumulation of scarce resources versus catastrophic mismanagement of legacy software. And the market is voting. Capital is flowing from Microsoft to Silver, from software to atoms, from promises to reality. Now let me address what you're probably thinking. Bill, you're exaggerating. Microsoft isn't going to collapse. They're too big to fail. They have Azure, they have Office 365, they have enterprise lock-in. You're right that they're not going bankrupt tomorrow. But here's what you're missing. Market cap doesn't require bankruptcy to collapse. It just requires repricing based on reduced growth expectations. If enterprise customers start migrating away from Windows, even slowly, Microsoft's growth story breaks. If Azure loses market share to AWS or Google Cloud because customers don't trust Microsoft anymore, the cloud narrative breaks. If Office 365 subscription renewals start declining because companies are tired of paying for software that gets worse with every update, the recurring revenue model breaks. None of these require Microsoft to fail completely. They just require Microsoft to stop growing. And when a company valued at 40x earnings stops growing, the multiple contracts violently. A repricing from 40x to 20x cuts the stock price in half. That's $1.4 trillion in market cap evaporating. Not because the company died, but because the growth story died. And that capital has to go somewhere. When trillions of dollars flee overvalued tech stocks, where do they go? Historically, they go into assets that are undervalued relative to their fundamental demand. And right now, nothing is more undervalued relative to fundamental demand than silver. Silver at $80 per ounce is not expensive, it's criminally cheap. If you adjust the 1980 peak of $50 for official CPI inflation, the inflation-adjusted all-time high is $170. If you adjust using real inflation numbers from Shadow Stats, it's over $400. We're trading at less than 50% of the inflation-adjusted high. Silver is the only major asset class that's cheaper today than it was 46 years ago. Real estate is up 10x. Stocks are up 20x. Even gold is up 4x. But silver? Silver is still recovering from 50 years of price suppression by the banking cartel. And that suppression is ending right now because the banks can't hold the beach ball underwater anymore. They're out of physical metal to deliver. They're trapped in a short position of 4.4 billion ounces that they cannot cover because that much silver doesn't exist. So here's what happens next. Pay very close attention because this timeline is specific and it's coming fast. We're at the end of January 2026. COMEX registered inventory is approaching zero. The January contracts that were supposed to be a quiet month just saw 23.5 million ounces stand for delivery in 72 hours. That's unprecedented. That's a bank run. March is the next major delivery month. That's when the industrial users, the Teslas and Apples and Samsungs, traditionally secure their silver for the year. They're watching the January bank run. They're seeing the vaults drain. They're realizing that if they wait until March, there might not be any silver left. So they're demanding delivery now. They're standing for delivery in February. They're not waiting. This creates a cascade. Every early delivery request drains the already depleted vaults. Every ounce that leaves weakens the next request. By the time we get to March, COMEX will have two choices: default or buy silver in the open market at any price to fulfill contracts. If they default, paper silver becomes worthless and physical gaps to 150 plus overnight. If they buy in the open market, they trigger the very short squeeze they've spent 50 years preventing. Either way, the outcome is the same. Physical silver explodes, paper silver dies, and the market cap of physical silver will dwarf Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and every other tech company combined, because when a critical resource becomes scarce, price becomes irrelevant. Manufacturers pay whatever is necessary, governments pay whatever is necessary, and investors who understand this reality position themselves ahead of time. This is not speculation. This is math. This is physics. This is the inevitable result of printing trillions of dollars to inflate asset bubbles while ignoring the physical constraints of commodity supply. You cannot print silver. You cannot code silver into existence. You cannot download it. You have to dig it out of the ground, refine it, and deliver it. And that process takes years to scale up, even if miners wanted to, which they don't because many mines are unprofitable at current prices. So we have inelastic supply meeting exponential demand meeting a banking system that's naked short meeting China's $48 trillion buying power meeting a COMEX that's out of inventory. This is the perfect storm, and it's hitting in the next 60-90 days. While this storm is brewing, Microsoft is in emergency meetings trying to figure out why customers hate Windows 11. They're scrambling to undo some of the worst decisions, but it's too late. The damage is done. Enterprise IT departments are exploring alternatives. They're looking at Linux for the first time in 20 years. They're looking at Chromebooks, they're calculating migration costs and realizing it might be worth it just to escape Microsoft's incompetence. This is the legacy collapsing. This is Bill Gates watching the empire he built turn into a cautionary tale. And while his empire crumbles, silver is being reborn as the strategic asset of the 21st century. So here's what you need to do. If you're holding Microsoft stock, I would seriously consider whether that position makes sense anymore. I'm not telling you to sell, that's your decision, but ask yourself, am I holding this because it's a good company or because it used to be a good company? Am I holding this because the fundamentals are strong or because I'm too emotionally attached to let go? If you're holding cash, convert some to physical silver immediately. Not paper silver, not SLV, not futures contracts. Physical metal in your possession, coins, bars, whatever you can get. Because when the COMEX defaults, when the paper market collapses, only physical holders will participate in the repricing. If you're holding silver, congratulations. You're positioned correctly. Don't let the volatility shake you out. When China drops the price from $79 to $75 overnight like they did yesterday, understand it's accumulation, not capitulation. They're buying what weak hands are selling. They're collecting liquidity before the launch. Hold through it and watch the calendar. Watch the end of January for COMEX inventory updates. Watch February for early delivery requests. Watch March for the potential default event. These are the milestones that will define 2026. The great rotation from software to atoms, from Microsoft to silver, from promises to reality is happening right now. This is the story of 2026. Tech empires crumbling under their own weight while physical resources surge on the back of scarcity and strategic demand. You're watching the changing of the guard. The question is, are you positioned correctly? Or are you still holding the assets of the past while the future is being built with silver? The choice is yours. But the window is closing fast. Microsoft's collapse is a warning. Silver's rise is an opportunity. Don't confuse the two. And don't wait until everyone else figures it out, because by then, the metal will be unobtainable at any price. This is William Lee. The rotation is here. The evidence is overwhelming. The timeline is specific. Act accordingly.